I got a comment from someone who said, certain experiences can produce many types of meaning, depending on an individual's perspective going into the experience. I've been wanting to speak on this for a while, and this comment dislodged it for me, so thank you to the person who shared their wisdom with me. I think this is where we can get into trouble. This is a troublesome area for us, one we have to be very aware of. We have to be cognizant of the pitfalls here. It's because we are slow in real time, but quick in future time. And while that enables us to go down the road and see a lot of possibilities, make a lot of plans, do all this kind of grand scheming, you can't be in two places at the same time. You can't be in the future and be in the present at the same time. Because we are so far ahead down the road, seeing everything which could be, we miss the obvious in the moment. We miss the details in the moment because we're looking so far ahead. So I think we're blinded to the things you would think someone should pick up on. Because we are slow to process in real time, we initially miss some of the more obvious things, the obvious signs. We all know the expression, can't see the forest for the trees. Well, sometimes we can't see the trees for the forest. Like everything else in life, this can have its advantages and disadvantages. Today, I want to speak about the possible disadvantages when we miss the trees for the forest. We enter experiences with certain expectations, and I don't think they're unfounded necessarily. In our minds, we have a good reason for expecting a certain outcome. Maybe we've seen a few things which cause us to draw a conclusion about what could be or might be. The problem is, our minds are powerful things, and we are very idealistic when it comes to looking ahead at the future and what we imagine could be or what we want to have happen, what we are hoping for. And this in turn affects how we interpret what we've seen, the data we've gathered. That's not to say we can't be realistic. If it's something objective, like world events, we can look into the future and be realistic as to what we think is going to happen. We can look at other people's relationships and situations and predict the trouble spots. But when it comes to things that touch us on a personal level, that's where we tend to be idealistic. So we miss the more obvious cues around us, or we misinterpret the data because we're looking at it through the lens of this already finished idealism. Our minds are incredibly powerful in that way, and this is how we can deceive ourselves because we've already gone ahead and pictured this idealistic future for whatever the situation is, and so now we're going to step into a real-time experience with the expectations of that ending in our minds. I think our intuition can deceive us at times because we see signs that appear to confirm that future idealistic scenario. Because we are looking for that, because we're living in that, we take all the pieces that are being given to us or are around us in that moment, and we make them fit that future idealization. It's like we've got the end in sight, now we're going to take all the pieces and try to make them all fit. And it seems they are fitting because our mind wants them to fit. You might see pieces that do not fit, but it's close enough, so you're just going to pretend. You see all the other pieces around, and realistically it doesn't fit, but your mind has convinced you that it does, and you desperately want to believe it. That's why we can get into such trouble. That's why we need to be careful we're not living in illusions. Illusion is fun, but when it gets confused with reality, watch out. This is why we can be susceptible to narcissistic abuse, because certain narcissists will see this in you, and they're going to give you what you're looking for. They know you are an idealist. They can tell you see things in a certain way, so they will give you the pieces you're looking for, even though it's not real. They're very clever in that way. And this is why we can be taken in by those sorts of people, because they give us what we want. They feed that desire for that idealistic ending. They want to show us that they are the ones who are going to make that happen for us. And because we're slow in real time, we miss some of the clues perhaps that we should have caught at the very beginning. Because we aren't thinking that way, because we aren't having our guard up in that way, because we're already at the end, we miss what we should see at the beginning. And this doesn't just apply to narcissistic abusive situations. I think it applies to relationships in general. This is why we get into trouble with relationships, because we meet someone and automatically we are down the road of idealism and all the things that go with it, the scenarios, the plans, all of what is going to happen. And we don't realize there are some things that have been put out there by the other person that really aren't compatible with us, or that we're not going to have an easy time dealing with, or whatever. We miss it because we're not living in the moment. We're living in the future. And as I said, we can't live in two places at the same time. So we miss the obvious things. And then eventually our slow processor catches up with us, and all the evidence is there which suggests that no, this really isn't the right relationship for me. But by then you're already involved, and then you have to get yourself out of it because you've put yourself in that position. We will have this difficulty whether it's in relation to another person or in relation to an interest or passion in our lives. Anytime we have a personal relationship with someone or something, there is the potential to fall into this pit. I've seen those of us so attached to a particular cause in this unrealistic, idealistic sort of way that we render ourselves useless to the actual cause, turning other people off in the process. It's all about balance, being more realistic in the idealism, understanding the limits of the situation, dreaming big, but still thinking realistically. This is where it's so important to have someone else in our lives who can keep us a bit grounded when we need to be. Because let's be honest, we will get lost if allowed to roam around too freely in the future. Because the future doesn't exist yet. No matter how much we think we can live in the future's existence, we can't. No one can. But it's such a temptation for us. And the danger is, it could be just an illusion. It's difficult, but I think for us, when entering new situations, the thing we have to do is slow down. It's very difficult not to think ahead and live there, but you have to remind yourself you can't be in two places at once. It's where we have to proceed with caution and try to take each day as it comes. Seek the help of another. Hold yourself accountable in that way. Examine each piece of evidence realistically, and not look ahead at some unrealistic ending that only exists in your mind based on what you want to see or what you want to happen, not what's real or what most likely will happen. It's hard to be a realist when you want something so badly, trust me, I know. So in a way, it's good when these things happen to us if it's used as a learning experience, possibly sparing us some heartache in the future. And hopefully, that's no illusion.